Episode 379. All this time, aside from the pure attack power of a silver weapon, the Myriad Manifestations umbrella had never possessed a single additional attribute. It was essentially a blank piece of equipment. Even the green tier gear, handed out as consolation prizes for system quests, often comes with bonus stats, but the Myriad Manifestations umbrella, it never had any. But at level 35, the Myriad Manifestations umbrella finally gained its first additional attribute. 8 scorpion tail stingers and 8 crimson poison needles ultimately forged 2 effects. What's even more terrifying is that an 8% chance compared to the 3% burn chance attached to the level 40 Flamelight twin-edged halberd makes it clear just how outstanding the Myriad Manifestations umbrella is in terms of probability. After confirming that all the attributes matched his expectations perfectly, Yaqiu finally relaxed. A custom weapon is defined by every single detail. If the 8 crimson poison needles were arranged at different lengths, or if the 8 scorpion tail barbs were hooked in a different staggered pattern than this one, the final attack and bonus attributes could be completely different. This current result represents the optimal state, achieved only after countless experiments and attempts. The spear state was functioning perfectly. With a tap of his keyboard, Yishu made Lord Grim flick his wrist. The umbrella ribs flipped back, the canopy returning to its normal closed form. But for the Myriad Manifestations umbrella, this form was defined as its shield mode. Even at level 35, crafted from 40 sandworm silks, this shield form still offered no bonus attributes. However, its core defensive reinforcement and damage absorption stats were right where they needed to be. But for the Myriad Manifestations umbrella, the shield form is really only a last-ditch, emergency stopgap. The higher the level, the less the Myriad Manifestations umbrella's fixed durability can handle its shield form. If not for careful calculation, a single misstep could have destroyed the Myriad Manifestations umbrella in its shield form. The spear and shield forms were successfully completed. However, other parts like the umbrella ribs, the handle, the central shaft, and the tip couldn't be evolved due to a lack of materials. Yaqiu had gathered a massive amount of materials through various means. However, for the next phase, aside from the Crimson Shadow Berserker Blade, a level 35 orange weapon from Line Canyon, all the other required materials had to be obtained from the Blazing Forest. The Blazing Forest dungeon requires players to be between levels 34 and 36. Just before the Christmas event, the top-level players from the major guilds had only just reached level 34. This meant they had only just begun their struggle within the Blazing Forest dungeon. Neutrals from Blazing Forest. There simply haven't been many produced in the entire 10th server yet. Trying to gather a full set right now is asking for the impossible. Yaqiu was well aware of this, so he wasn't in any hurry to go hunting for those materials just yet. As for the orange weapon Crimson Shadow Blade, Yaqiu had asked Tyrannical Ambition for it twice. The first time, he used not setting a dungeon record as leverage, but that attempt just fizzled out. The second time, it was mentioned in the bet he made with Zhang Xinjie. Unfortunately, Tyrannical Ambition claimed they didn't have it, and later substituted other materials instead. Whether Tyrannical Ambition truly didn't have it or was just pretending, even Yaqiu couldn't say for sure. But it's clear enough that orange tier weapons are genuinely rare.
Thoughtful might be worth trying to acquire this blade.
With that thought, Yaqiu immediately posted an advertisement on the World Channel to buy the Crimson Shadow Berserker Blade. The world was vast, and the One-Line Canyon had been trampled by players for some time now. Even though an orange weapon was rarer than a unique material, after so many days of countless players battling it out there, Yaqiu believed some must have dropped by now. Sure enough, even though it was early morning and the game wasn't at its peak, several friend requests were quickly submitted by the system. Yaqiu added and questioned them one by one. As it turned out, one of the 5 had misheard, thinking buy a blade meant sell a blade, and had instantly become Yaqiu's competitor. Yaqiu ignored him and asked the other 4 about the value of their Crimson Shadow Mad blades. He had a good idea of the market price. He just hoped he wouldn't run into some stubborn newbie who was convinced he was being scammed. Someone who'd dig in their heels and insist on that inflated price. That would be a real headache. Even though Yaqiu would spare no expense to craft the Myriad Manifestations umbrella, that didn't mean he was willing to be a sucker. Of the remaining 4, one just said he was curious about the price and asked casually, then vanished without even confirming if he actually had the materials. Of the remaining 3, 2 immediately asked Yaeshu for a quote. He naturally gave them a fair price, one where no one would lose out. The result? One of them instantly sent a goodbye, as if they'd just run into a scammer. The other one, however, didn't reply immediately after hearing Yaeshu's quote, as if he was mulling it over. The remaining player had actually made an offer to Yaeshu first, though the price quoted was a bit higher than Yaeshu's fair market rate. That was to be expected. Whether they'd overestimated the value or were just leaving room to haggle, sellers always inflated their initial asking price. Yaeshu wasn't in a hurry to reply. Instead, he waited for the player who hadn't reacted to his offer. The player was indeed mulling it over, and replied a moment later,
That's a bit low, isn't it?
Yaeshu didn't waste words. He added a bit to his fair price and sent the reply to both parties. For one, it was a counteroffer. For the other, it was a slightly raised bid. So the one who had made the first offer launched into a silver-tongued defense of his original price, while the one who'd received the counteroffer seemed to hesitate for a moment before replying to accept. You immediately arranged a meeting spot. Just as the other guy was sending his fourth long-winded message, Yaeshu replied, Sorry, I've already got one. The other person stopped sending messages. Whether they were filled with regret was anyone's guess. Buying the blade required cash on the barrelhead. Yaeshu didn't have that much gold on hand, but he had plenty of materials. So he sent another message to the player, trying to negotiate a trade. If this were some clueless newbie, it'd be a no-go. A greenhorn wouldn't have the faintest idea what rare materials are worth. This player, however, seemed to know a thing or two. After a few rounds of back-and-forth bargaining with Yaeshu, he quite readily accepted the discounted price Yaeshu proposed. They each gathered their items, agreed on a meeting spot, and headed out. They opened the trade window, inspected their respective items, and confirmed the deal. Just like the countless trades that happen in the game every day, theirs concluded without any fanfare. They exchanged a quick "see you" and went their separate ways. Yaeshu immediately entered the equipment editor. Crafting this medium sword was relatively simple within the Myriad Manifestations umbrella system. It just required forging the material components into the appropriate shapes. Of course, in the early stages of research, this too was the result of countless experiments. Some materials simply couldn't be forged. Yaeshu was now certain that every single material he'd reclaimed had been chosen only after countless trials and failures. Only after finally piecing together the underlying pattern could they look back at these material choices and see how obvious they were. And to reach this point, one must have accumulated countless failures along the way. Yaeshu reflected on all this, but Crimson Shadow's blade was already forged into its proper shape. He drew out the original hilt sword, inserted the new one, and saved the edit.